and I just have to say, I am excited to get started with some home ec style cooking, thinking out loud lessons, because the things that I am seeing on the socials right now make me want to throw things. The foil pan assembly of nonsense ingredients, the lack of use of mixing bowls and utensils, I don't understand, because obviously I'm old, so I don't get it. But there's also a way to cook and a way to avoid cooking. And I feel like a lot of the things that you see on social media right now is, let's avoid real cooking, but make it look like we've cooked. And I don't understand why that is valuable. So what I wanted to do is share some tips, tricks, empower the person cooking to try recipes that build their confidence, and share tips for menu planning, how to maximize your grocery dollars, feel in control of your food budget, and actually order out only because you want to, not because it's 6 o'clock and everybody's hungry and looking at you for a solution, and actually show you cooking techniques that will help you feel confident in the kitchen. So the meatball recipe that we're going to be making today will make enough for 2 full meals, potentially leftovers as well. And so it's a great recipe to start with and have done cooking in advance for another meal. They freeze beautifully even in the sauce. So imagine yourself making this, your family, friends enjoying it, and then putting away the extra in the freezer, so that when time is short, you can pull it out and pull out a spectacular meal in under 30 minutes that is homemade and delicious and restaurant quality. So that's our goal today with the recipes that I've chosen. We have a homemade meatball, as well as a homemade, with canned tomatoes, marinara sauce. But this is the best marinara sauce that I have ever made. It was a great recipe. I found both of these on actually the New York Times cooking website. And so they're tried and true recipes. And that is also something that I encourage you to stay away from, are experimental recipes until you're very confident in the kitchen. That's why I avoid Pinterest. I'm a very seasoned cook. I avoid Pinterest because most of the recipes that I see are created or recycled by folks that just don't actually even know how to cook. So they might be able to share a photograph, whether it's something they actually made or not, but do they know how to actually cook and think through the process? Or are they showing you poor technique, poor home economics, where you're wasting a bunch of ingredients that you'll never use again? So I want to think through those things, and I think the videos as we go, it'll be your mom thinking out loud through her processes, and that's how you learn, is just understanding what someone's thinking when they're doing it. So we're going to do a couple of onions, and if you are needing to dice onions, just cut the ends off and make a quick little slice and peel that outer layer off. And I have a wonderful little chopper. You can pick one of these up. Different stores will have a different version of them. I love this style chopper for onions, other vegetables that you don't want to have become puree in like a food processor. Plus, it's just a small amount. I don't want to have to dirty an entire appliance to just chop up a small onion or some broccoli or something that I'm using in another dish. So I'm just going to chop our onion nice and fine. And you see it's a beautiful fine chop. We want it chopped nice and finely for our meatballs, because I don't prefer to bite into a big crunchy piece of onion. I want that lovely creamy texture of the meatball. I don't want to have a big crunch happening on the inside. So now there's a couple of cool things to know. Again, just tips and tricks. I learned in 8th grade cooking class, but you know, I went to 8th grade before the crust of the earth cooled, so they don't teach these things anymore. But if you get the odor of onions and garlic on your hands, if you have something stainless steel, like this beautiful stainless steel bowl here, just rub your hand on a stainless steel surface and it takes away the odor. It's amazing. I promise it works. So that's free. We're gonna take one mat and just drop in our diced onion into the bowl of the mixer, and I'm gonna move that away because I don't want the onion oil, you know, coming up and making my eyes water. So we have our onion already chopped. Now we're gonna take 2 packages of meat. We have a ground pork and a ground beef. When I go to the grocery, I like to pick up these packages of 1 pound ground meat. When they're on sale, buy a couple of each, throw them in the freezer so that you can pull them out and make this dish or other dishes like it. When they're on sale, get a couple of them. That's how you economize your grocery trips. You know you're gonna make these meatballs or a meatloaf or something using ground meat again. So when they're on sale, pick them up and have them on hand so that you're prepared. Now, kitchen shears, I see a lot on the socials, people using them for all kinds of just crazy stuff. This is what kitchen shears are for, is actually, you know, opening packages in the kitchen, and they're clean. You know, you don't want to use your kitchen scissors that you've been, you know, trimming who knows what with, and then come and open your package of ground pork for your meatballs. So I have a couple pairs of kitchen shears because one often is in the dishwasher, but also I love using kitchen shears for herbs. When you're having to dice up herbs, for which we will do some parsley here in a minute, that's the perfect application for kitchen shears, because you can take them and do right over your bowl, and you can do it nice and finely, and I think it works better than a knife for those delicate leaves that you're needing to add. So we're going to take a pound each of ground beef and ground pork for these meatballs. While we are assembling the rest of our ingredients in the bowl, I will show you, we're going to let our breadcrumbs reconstitute. We decided reconstitute was the best word without using that M word that makes everybody freak out. Moist, for those of you that don't know. So, just to be clear. So, did you know that there is a difference between a liquid measuring device and a dry measuring device? So, my daughter, who is here with me, was like, oh, I didn't realize that, which is great because, you know, I'm her mom. I should have taught her that. But here we are. So, liquid measure has more space above the final measure, so that when you're measuring, this is a 4-cup measuring cup. If I were to put 4 cups of milk in this measure, I would still have space past that top measurement so that I'm not spilling the liquid all over the counter. The dry ingredient, if I want 1 cup of, these are Italian breadcrumbs, if I want a cup of flour, if I want a cup of whatever, then you put your dry ingredient, you'll level it off, and you know you have exactly a cup in your measure. So if you were to use this with liquid, you would put your milk all the way to the top, and then you'd be spilling it all over the counter and whatnot until you got it where you were going. So better. So here we are, we have 1 1/3 cups of milk already measured and 1 cup of Italian breadcrumbs. And we're just gonna fluff it around and let that sit and reconstitute while we're assembling the rest of our meatball ingredients. Garlic cloves. This is an important distinction because I've actually talked to people that didn't realize that there's a difference or what the difference is. So this is a bulb of garlic, not to be confused with a clove of garlic. So if your recipe calls for 3 cloves of garlic, it is not 3 bulbs. No vampires will be around, but you also probably can't eat it. So you want just 3 cloves of garlic. And so you're going to peel it off. Please don't use the jarred garlic. You know, jarlic is lovingly referred to as, because first of all, the flavor is completely off. It doesn't give you that same beautiful garlic flavor. It just makes you feel like you're adding garlic. And you're not going to get that delicious, beautiful aroma as you will from fresh garlic. Plus, that garlic clove, bulb, costs probably 49 cents, 69 cents. There are many cloves on it, maybe 20. And so you're only going to use a few at a time. This will last if you store it in a cool, dry place. Just get a little bowl or basket and keep it in your cupboard someplace where it's dry and dark, and that will last you a month, 3 weeks, something like that. You're going to use it hopefully by the time it would have gone bad, and I usually keep several on hand because we use it all the time and it's not expensive. So just kind of keep an eye on your garlic stock and make sure you have some handy. So if you do have it handy, here's the garlic press, and you can buy these just about anywhere. This happens to be a Pampered Chef version. I like this version because I don't actually have to peel the cloves, so my fingers don't have to come into contact with the actual garlic itself. I'm only touching the little papery outside, and I'm able to just squeeze it right into the bowl, as it were, and we're just going to scrape the garlic off into the bowl and go from there. I do have, because I needed to do many cloves, did several ahead of time, and so we're just going to scrape the rest of these already pressed garlic cloves into the bowl. Having little prep bowls, super helpful tool in your kitchen because you can pre-measure your ingredients. Again, making the process from start to finish much faster if you have prepared some ingredients ahead of time, like do your garlic, do all these things, have them handy, throw them in. Your process of cooking from start to finish is going to take a lot less time, less frustration, because you will have identified the ingredients ahead of time and you're not digging around trying to find them while things are happening. And you'll just feel more confident as you're preparing things in the kitchen. Okay, so did you know when you're measuring salt, never measure your salt over the bowl? Anytime I feel, confident that I'm gonna do it right, I always remember, never do that again. So when you're measuring your salt, measure over in a container that is, or a bowl or something that is not what you're putting the all of your ingredients in. And salt is cheap, so I'll overfill my measuring spoon just a little bit and shake. So we have 2 teaspoons of salt that are going into the bowl, but we know exactly how much is going in because we measured away from the vessel with all of the ingredients in it. Another tip is when you're breaking eggs, break your egg on a flat surface and give it a good hard pop. That's going to help disrupt the membrane on the inside of the egg so that when you pull it apart, everything comes apart without little shards of shell getting into your vessel. So give it a good hard pop. You may get a little that comes out, but I would rather clean up a little pool on the counter than have to fish eggshells out of what I'm doing here. So we're just gonna drop that egg right in there and take our shells and put them over to the side. Gonna rinse off now. Okay, now over the last 15 or so years, there's been a big shift from block cheese to pre-shredded cheese. The big story with pre-shredded is it has an ingredient that is food safe, but it's actually a wood byproduct. It's cellulose, not to be confused with cellulite, which we may find in unsightly places, but cellulose keeps the shredded cheese from clumping in the bag, but it also keeps it from melting nicely in your dishes. So if you've ever made, say, a pizza, or you've put pre-shredded cheese on the top of a casserole, and all of those little pieces look exactly like they did when you put it in, even after they've melted, they kind of are, just laying there looking like little planks. It's, it could be the wood that's on it, but also it's just pre-shredded cheese doesn't last very long. So you may buy a bag and go back to use it 5 or 6 days after it's been opened and find that it's already turning, and now you've wasted the ingredient and you don't have what you need on hand. So a block of cheese is going to last much longer, and if you know anything about cheese, even if you get a little bit of mold growth on it, take it out, cut that off, use a different bag so you're not putting it back in where the mold spores are, and you can still, rock on with that same block of cheese for a lot longer. So this is a block of Parmesan that I've been using for, I don't know, several weeks, and it's still perfect. And I shredded it's a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. And honestly, if you have only ever used that little green, shaker thing of Parmesan cheese, they're totally different animals. The little, green shaker can is a distant relative, but not the same thing. And it doesn't taste the same. It doesn't do the same work for you. So just get a block of Parmesan cheese. It's going to last a very long time, and you're going to thank me, I promise. So here is half a cup of Parmesan cheese that's been shredded, and we're just gonna add that in to our mixing bowl. Double check that we have all of the other ingredients. We're going to use the kitchen shears, my favorite application of kitchen shears for herbs, and we're just going to snip these right into the bowl. Oh, the oven's ready. Snip these guys right in here. This is some fresh parsley. And even though it is November, I was able to harvest this out of my herb garden outside. What a gift. And so there's our already parsley. Oh, and our reconstituted breadcrumbs. We're going to just scrape in our breadcrumbs. And then turn the mixer on and go. Okay, so we have our mixed meatball ingredients. And as I'm doing these meatballs, I just want to have you think about planning your week. If you think about food in a way that is proactive, you will find that it's kind of like Christmas. You know that it's coming, and so you can plan for it if you think about it. So think about your week, and if there's a night where kids have practice late, or you need to work late, or you're just not going to be able to have time to prepare a meal, why not make meatballs earlier in the week, have them left over, buy an Italian loaf and a block of mozzarella, so when you come home on that night where you don't have a lot of time, you can take your leftover meatballs, warm them up, cut open that Italian loaf, make an Italian meatball sub, layer on some slices of mozzarella, put it under the broiler, you know, for 10-15 minutes until everything, you'd have to heat your meatballs up first, but put them, you know, in the oven with cheese on top, and throw a salad or a vegetable that your family likes on the side, and you have a fantastic meal, but you were prepared for it earlier in the week, so you didn't have to do takeout. So as we're doing our meatballs, I love having a little scooper that has, it's kind of like an old-fashioned ice cream scoop used to be, where it has a little thing that ejects the product for you, so you don't have to get your hands too dirty. And you don't want to handle the meatballs more than necessary, so just get so that you don't have any large chunks hanging off. Tap it with your finger or whatever, and then eject it onto your baking sheet lined with parchment paper. It helps make cleanup easier, and they don't stick at all to the parchment. So you have your happy meatballs. Make sure that there's just a little gap between them, and if you need to move them over, if you've used too much surface area, you can move them around. It's okay. So we've put our meatballs in the oven, 400 degrees. They're going to start smelling amazing here pretty soon. The San Marzano tomatoes are absolutely the critical ingredient for your marinara sauce. So I've just emptied the can into this bowl. This is 2 cans actually, and I'm using this super little tool. It's like a mix and chop tool. So it's excellent for if you're browning ground beef and onion together in a pan on the stove. It is heat proof, so you can do that and just get it nice and broken apart. This works wonderfully for the breaking apart of these tomatoes. I like the whole peeled variety because you get the right tomato to liquid ratio, so don't cut the corner and get the crushed or the tomato sauce. It's just going to be too wet, too liquidy. That's the technical term. And so this recipe actually instructs us to rinse the inside of the can. You can see how much beautiful tomato product is still clinging to the side of the can. So I just have a little bit of water. It says to use a cup. Probably not going to use the whole cup. And just swish it around and get all of that lovely tomato product off the inside of the can, so you're not leaving any of that, no tomato left behind. So here we are, and just gonna put that into our bowl. Mix this together. Now on the stove, I have a beautiful pan. It holds, I'm not sure its liquid capacity, but a lot. And this beautiful pan is a hex clad. If you don't have a good pan that you use every day for cooking with your family and you say, oh man, they're so expensive, you know what? Eating out is very expensive. So if you start eating in more and setting aside the difference between what you would have spent at a restaurant and what you're actually spending when you're cooking, even if it's $10 or $15 a week, just put a little envelope up by your plates or something and stick that money in the envelope. When you have saved up enough, buy yourself one really amazing pan that will make your life simpler. It's just good home economics. So this beautiful pan has garlic in it already, and we're going to add some olive oil, and we're going to brown the garlic. Not brown it, just release all of the aromas. We don't want garlic. Garlic burns very quickly if you're not careful, so keep it moving in the pan as we're heating it, and don't allow it to turn brown. You just want it to release all of those oils, and that you can smell when that's happening. Then you want to add your liquid. We're going to add in the tomatoes that we've already prepared. Now the crushed red pepper, this is something that I often forget to put in, so I like to put it in the bowl while I'm looking at my countertop and I have all of the things, all the ingredients out. I've already put one, it says pinch of red pepper flakes. And if you didn't know what a pinch is in a recipe, if you basically look at the hollow that's created when you cup your hand, that is, coffee maker, that is a pinch. So if you get a pinch of salt, a pinch of red pepper, that is basically the little hollow that's created when you make a cup of your hand, and that is a pinch. So that, I have 2 pinches in the bowl already, or total. So we're gonna put this on the stove and turn the gas on, and that's going to come up very quickly, so we want to be prepared. We have our utensil to do the garlic with, and all of this is ready. So this this marinara comes together so quickly while the meatballs are cooking. You get this started, get it to a nice bubbly simmer, and then just let it stay there, let it hold. We're going to take the meatballs off the pan, put them directly into the sauce. That's why we need this big, lovely pan, because it's going to hold not just the sauce, but the meatballs as well. So then you're going to let those kind of marry together for a few minutes before you serve it. So probably if you're making this for your family, you're going to take the meatballs out, put it in the sauce, then you're going to have the water boiling for your pasta, so it can be, the meatballs can be marrying with the sauce while you're cooking the pasta, and then it just goes to the table. Okay, so the garlic is still blonde, but I've moved it around, and now it's time to add the liquid. So we've avoided scorching the garlic, but we've released all those beautiful flavors. Just going to let that do its thing. Nice and medium low. We don't, tomato sauce, if you've ever let it get really hot, it starts to bubble like molten lava, and it gets everywhere, and it hurts a lot because, molten lava. So we do need salt. We're going to do, again, measure our salt over a different receptacle than the one that has our food. And this is a lot of sauce, so it's a tablespoon of salt. The tomatoes are unsalted, so that's why we're adding so much salt, is we need the flavor, and those are unsalted tomatoes. So add in our tablespoon of salt. We're gonna give it a little stir. And while it smells so good, I wish there was a smell option that you could, scratch and sniff. It would be awesome. But so we have that going. The one time that I'm going to suggest that you get pre-shredded cheese. First of all, this is shaved Parmesan, nice and thick shaving. If you've ever looked at it at the grocery store, these are like beautiful sheets of Parmesan. The beautiful thing about it is it just has a little bit of potato starch and cornstarch, doesn't have the cellulose, so that actually would melt should you need it to. But this is just going to be an incredible garnish on top of this incredibly delicious meatball sauce pasta. And I love getting a bite of cheese. This has, when you bite into it, there's a bite. It's like having an al dente pasta. You get this texture. And this is not a cheap ingredient. You can buy the store brand in a little plastic tub that's maybe $2.99. I think this is $4.99 or $5.99. But I'm only going to use about half of this for our meal. And why not think about using this later in the week? Get a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store and plan on making a homemade Caesar salad. This is what you want on a Caesar salad, right? This beautiful shredded planks of cheese. And so you can make a really nice meal later on in the week for your family. Get that rotisserie chicken, have it in the fridge, cut it up, put it on some, fresh romaine, some good Caesar dressing, and some beautiful shaved Parmesan. So that would be a great way of making sure you're using your ingredients, and you're using the ingredient that just elevates the the food experience in that moment. Because you can do your Parmesan and shred this yourself. It's gonna be different on your Caesar salad than this lovely, like you get a bite of crunchy lettuce, you get a really nice, you know, bite of Parmesan cheese, and it just happens. It's just fun. It's great food. That's how you would want it at a restaurant. So why not do it like that at home? Okay, we're going to cut some fresh basil leaves into the lovely tomato sauce that's gently doing its thing here on the stove. Remember, we talked about not having it be so active that you end up with molten lava spots all over you and your kitchen, and burns and all of that. So we're just going to take and gently cut all of these lovely basil leaves into our sauce, and the aroma is just spectacular. And you want to add your herb, your fresh herb here in at the end. You don't want that cooking, you know, forever and just losing its vitality. But we're about to put our meatballs into the sauce. Just work the basil in. We want our meatballs to cook to an internal temperature of 165 degrees. If you don't have an instant read thermometer in your kitchen, you really should invest in one. You can buy them at the grocery store. There are varying degrees of accuracy, but we just want to get something that allows us to see how we're doing without just, you know, being completely unsure. So I have a nice digital one here that I'll be using. So we're just going to check on the progress of these gorgeous meatballs in here. And oh, they are finished. So we're going to pull these guys out and ever so gently lay them into the sauce. So aren't those fantastic? Now we are going to drop the pasta into the water, take our tongs and just give it a nice little twist, and all of those happy noodles are just going to lay right down in the water. I did put just a touch of olive oil in the water. That'll help the pasta not stick together so much after it's drained. So we're going to take some tongs and gently lay these gorgeous meatballs into the sauce. And the reason for dropping the meatballs by scoopful instead of mashing it and forming them by hand, it completely changes the texture of your meatball. If you pack them too tightly, the texture will be hard and just too compact. You want this lovely creamy interior that kind of melts in your mouth, and I mean, don't we want that? And so you don't want to overpack your meat when you're forming your meatballs. So they're not going to be perfectly round, and that's okay because these are homemade, and that's just a sign that you have made these yourself. If they don't look like they came out of a bag and they're perfect little, you know, marble size round. I mean, that's great too, but these are homemade and they're going to look homemade, and that's okay. So now we've nestled all these little happy meatballs. I feel like Bob Ross, the happy little meatballs, down into our sauce. And so I'm just moving them around so everybody's covered, and let those flavors do their thing. Okay, so here we are. We have a beautiful bowl of pasta. We have our delicious smelling meatballs, and I'm thinking, it's kind of lunchtime, so maybe, I don't know, 3. Feeling lucky, have 3. And we want some sauce to finish that up with. Does that look beautiful? Got it all over the side of the bowl like you would at home too. And I'll put that delicious Parmesan cheese top. And just kind of crumble that up a little bit because they do give you really generous sheets of Parmesan. And this you measure with your heart, not with, you know, any other type of measurement. And there you have it. So you can see this recipe makes a very large amount of both sauce and meatballs. So we're gonna take probably half of this for our dinner tonight, freeze a good portion for a dinner in the future, and maybe save a few for that beautiful meatball sub later in the week when time is short. And you can freeze bread quite nicely. So if you buy your Italian loaf at the beginning of the week, throw it in the freezer, pull it out, put it in defrost in your microwave for a minute or so before you slice it, and put your hot meatballs on top of it, and then throw it in the oven so it's fresh and ready to go. And you'll have your Parmesan left over, of course, unless you measure with your heart by like scoops full, then you might need 2 bags. So that is it, and I hope you enjoy, and just give us feedback and tell us what you like, tell us what you want to know more about, and we'll see you again soon.